The temperature tonight is -40 degrees. In most places on Earth, people would never step outside in weather like this. The cold bites the air. Think the wind moves across the frozen land like a blade. But in this remote corner of Siberia, someone is still awake. A small wooden cabin stands alone in the endless white wilderness. No city lights, no nearby villages, just snow, stretching for miles in every direction. Inside that cabin lives a young girl. No neighbors, no roads, no one to call for help, and yet, this is her home. Every single day, she wakes up in one of the coldest inhabited regions on Earth, where winter lasts most of the year, where rivers turn into solid ice, where even breathing outside for too long can freeze the moisture in the air. This place tests every human who tries to live here, but somehow, she survives. Every morning begins before the sun rises, 'cause here in Siberia, daylight in winter is short. It's very short. Sometimes the sun barely appears at all. The girl wraps herself in thick layers of clothing. Heavy wool, fur-lined boots, a thick coat that has been repaired many times. Nothing here is replaced easily. Everything must last, because the nearest town is many hours away, across frozen forests and endless snow. Outside the cabin, the world is silent. No traffic, no crowds. Only the sound of the wind moving through frozen trees. The girl opens the wooden door carefully. A cloud of warm breath escapes into the freezing air. The cold hits instantly, sharp, brutal, unforgiving. But she steps outside anyway, because survival here is not optional. It is a daily responsibility. The first thing she checks is the firewood stack beside the cabin. Without fire, nothing else matters. The cabin would quickly freeze. The water would turn to ice. Even sleep would become dangerous. So every day, she gathers more wood. Sometimes walking deep into the forest with a small axe. Sometimes pulling a sled across heavy snow. Every piece of wood means another night of warmth. But fire is only the beginning. Living in Siberia requires planning, patience, and constant effort. Food must be stored carefully. Snow must be melted for water. Clothing must stay dry. And the cabin must always stay warm. One mistake in weather like this can become life-threatening. Yet, despite the harsh conditions, the girl has learned something important. The cold is powerful, but it is also predictable. And with the right preparation, even the coldest place on Earth can become livable. She has learned how to insulate the cabin walls with thick materials, how to block freezing wind from entering through small cracks, how to layer clothing so body heat stays trapped inside. These are not luxuries. These are the skills that allow her to survive, and tonight, as another freezing Siberian storm approaches, those skills will be tested again. Because living here is not just about enduring winter, it is about outsmarting it. In the frozen wilderness of Siberia, survival is not a single moment. It is a story written every single day. And this is only the beginning. Morning in Siberia does not arrive gently. It slowly appears through a pale gray sky, as if the sun itself struggles to rise in this frozen world. Inside the small wooden cabin, the fire is still glowing from the night before. The girl wakes up before the cold has time to settle into the walls. The first thing she does is check the fire. If the flames die completely, the cabin temperature can drop dangerously fast. So she kneels beside the stove, carefully adding small pieces of dry wood. Within minutes, the fire grows again. A quiet, crackling sound fills the room. Warmth slowly spreads through the tiny space. Only then can the day truly begin. Living in Siberia means every task must follow a routine that protects against the cold. The girl melts snow on the stove to make water. Outside, everything is frozen. Rivers are locked beneath thick ice. The ground is too hard to dig. Snow becomes the only reliable source of water. A small metal pot sits above the flame. Slowly, the snow turns into liquid. Takes time, but patience is something this life has taught her well. Breakfast is simple: sometimes dried food stored from earlier seasons, sometimes bread carefully kept from freezing solid. Food supplies must last for long periods. Because traveling to a town in winter can be extremely difficult. Blizzards can erase paths within minutes. And temperatures can fall so low that machines stop working. After eating, the girl prepares for the most important task of the day: going outside. Before opening the door, she layers her clothing carefully. First, a thick inner layer to trap warmth. Then, heavy wool clothing. Then, a large coat lined with fur. Finally, gloves and a hat that covers nearly her entire face. Every layer matters. Without protection, exposed skin can freeze within minutes. She opens the cabin door. A blast of icy air rushes inside. Outside, the landscape looks endless. White snow covers the ground. Frozen trees stand silent like statues. Even sound behaves differently here. The thick snow absorbs most noise, leaving the world strangely quiet. The girl pulls a small wooden sled behind her. This sled is one of the most useful tools she owns. It helps carry firewood, supplies, and sometimes food gathered from the forest. Step by step, she walks through the deep snow. Her boots sink slightly with every movement. But she keeps going because winter survival depends on preparation. Firewood must always stay stocked. Storms can last days, sometimes even weeks. And when heavy snow blocks movement outside, the only warmth comes from what was collected earlier. In the forest, she carefully searches for fallen branches. Trees here grow slowly, and cutting living trees is difficult in extreme cold. So she gathers what nature has already provided. Using a small axe, she cuts larger branches into manageable pieces. Each piece is stacked neatly onto the sled. It is hard work. Her breath turns into clouds of frost with every exhale. But she continues until the sled is full. Then begins the slow journey back to the cabin. By the time she returns, the sky has already begun to darken again. Winter days in Siberia are short. Very short. Inside the cabin, the warmth of the fire feels almost magical. She places the new wood near the stove to keep it dry. Wet wood burns poorly and produces dangerous smoke. Everything must be done carefully. The girl also checks the cabin walls. Small cracks can appear when wood shrinks in extreme cold. Even tiny openings can allow freezing wind to enter. So she fills gaps with cloth, insulation, and natural materials. It may seem like a small task, but in this climate, small problems can become big ones quickly. Later in the evening, the storm finally arrives. The wind grows louder. Snow begins striking the cabin walls. Outside, the temperature drops even further. The world becomes a moving storm of white. But inside this small wooden cabin, the fire continues to burn. Warm light flickers across the walls, and the girl sits quietly beside the stove, listening to the storm. Many people might wonder how someone could live in such a harsh place, but for her, this life has become normal. She understands the rhythm of winter. She knows how the wind moves through the forest. She knows how to prepare before storms arrive. These lessons were not learned in a single day. They came slowly, through experience, through patience, through respect for the power of nature. Out here, the cold is not an enemy. It is simply a force that must be understood. And for those who learn its rules, even the frozen wilderness of Siberia can become a place to live. But winter is long, and every new day brings new challenges. Because in this part of the world, survival is never guaranteed. It must be earned, again and again. Night falls quickly in Siberia. Outside the cabin, the storm slowly begins to calm. The powerful winds fade into a quiet whisper across the frozen land. Snow continues to fall gently, covering the forest in a fresh white blanket. Inside the small wooden cabin, the fire still burns. Its soft orange light fills the room with warmth. The girl sits quietly near the stove, wrapped in thick layers. Another long day in the coldest wilderness on Earth. has come to an end. Living here is not easy. Every day demands effort. Every task requires patience, and every mistake can carry serious consequences. But despite the challenges, this life has also taught her something rare: self-reliance in a world where most people depend on cities, electricity, and constant comfort. She has learned how to depend on something much simpler: preparation, observation, and respect for nature. She knows how to read the sky before a storm. She knows how to keep warmth inside a small cabin when temperatures fall far below freezing. And she knows that survival in a place like Siberia is not about fighting the cold. It is about understanding it. Outside, the endless wilderness stretches far beyond the horizon. Frozen forests, silent valleys, miles of untouched snow. To many people, this place might seem impossible to live in, but for her, it has become home. A home built not from comfort, but from resilience. Because sometimes the strongest stories are not about adventure or danger. Sometimes they are about quiet strength. The strength to wake up every morning in one of the harshest climates on Earth and simply keep going. And somewhere in the vast frozen wilderness of Siberia, inside a small wooden cabin surrounded by endless snow, that quiet story continues. One day at a time.